Hi, ACST 1052 students. This is Doug Fletcher, and I'm recording a series of 3 instructional videos concerning computer simulation. And the basis of computer simulation is the generation of random numbers. Now, you've already met the function that I'm starting off with on this screen, which is rand between, but that's only one of the random number functions in Excel. So I've just clicked on the little FX box there next to the formula bar, and if I type in rand and hit enter, then that's going to give me a list of functions that do something about random numbers. We're looking at the first 3 of these. You've already seen rand between, and we'll briefly revise that. We'll introduce the rand function and also the crown jewel of Excel random number generators, the rand array function. The last 2, the chi-square test functions, these are relevant to testing the randomness of numbers that you've already generated, and that's not part of what we're doing today. So I'm just going to cancel from that dialog and come back to this screen. So just to revise rand between, I've got the rand between function in this cell here, and that's referring to the minimum value that I've labeled in cell B2 and the maximum value that I've labeled in cell B3. And so that's generating a random integer from 0 up to 20 inclusive. Now, whenever I hit enter on a cell, or if I've edited something anywhere else, if I hit F2 here and then hit enter, that's going to recalculate the rand between function, and that's what we call a volatile function. So it'll recalculate given any opportunity. And you don't have to be editing that cell, you could be editing something else. So I'm in the cell called max, and I just press F2 to edit that, and I don't even change anything, but if I hit enter, it will recalculate the random value. Another way to check what's going on is if you tell Excel to recalculate. So in the formula bar, you've got calculation options, and that tells you automatic except for data tables, and manual. And it can be handy changing back to manual calculation sometimes. Generally, you want to leave calculation as automatic. But if you want to force a recalculation just to see what happens, then press the F9 key. And then that will force the volatile functions to recalculate. Now, as you will be aware, we can restrict the range that the random numbers will come up in. So if I say only between 10 and 12, then we can do that. But really, I'll just reset this to 0 to 20. Really, this is a pretty basic and pretty limited sort of function. So let's look at the next one, which is rand, and I'm just going to unhide the rows here, and this is where I've put the rand function. So I've got a similar little graph here. The thing about the rand function is it's very simple. It has no arguments whatsoever. So you just put in rand and then open and close parentheses, and it generates a number between 0 and 1. And from what I'm told, this is a pretty good quality random number generator. As we say in the trade, it has a long period before it repeats, so long that you really don't need to worry about it. And it generates these numbers to full precision. And so because it's between 0 and 1, this number line goes only from 0 to 1. And again, this is volatile. So if I press F9, it'll jump around within that range. If I go to any cell and press F2, don't even change anything, but then press enter, it will recalculate. So you might have thought it wouldn't recalculate if nothing relevant had changed, but that's not the way Excel thinks. So if you wanted, and sometimes you do want a random value to actually stay fixed so you can do some checking, right, you might then want to hard code that in just for a little while, and then check some calculations, and then you can come back to what you had before. But there's no way in Excel to get the random number generators to reproduce a particular sequence. Other statistical software can do that, but that is not something that Excel can do, unfortunately. Now, one of the things that RAND will do, of course, is you can modify this to produce random values on any range. Okay, so if we did something like, we could have a minimum value here, and we could have a maximum value, and then we could say the random value would then be equal to the minimum plus our random value times the maximum minus the minimum. And this would give us a real valued number that would random on 0 to 20, and then we can very easily change that, make that real valued on on 10 to 20 and recalculate that. And this is all based on this the basic RAND function. So it's very easy to modify that in order to get real values within a particular range. However, there's actually an easier way to do this, and it's a very powerful and flexible way, and that is the RAND array function. So I'll unhide that part, and this is a bit more complicated. So here's the RAND array formula. It's got 5 parameters. All right, now this can return a whole array of values at once, which is very powerful. You can do it in a block of cells with a certain number of rows and a certain number of columns. Generally, I recommend you use rows and keep the number of columns at 1, because there are several applications, and it's sort of convenient for us as well to have all the values of a same variable in a single column. So usually I think you'll have columns set to 1. Just initially, I'm going to set the rows to 1, so we're only generating a single value here. Now, it has a minimum and a maximum, so we could do 0 to 20. We can do the same thing that we were doing up here, all right, except with the RAND array that's built in. And you can actually restrict this to integer if you set that to true. And then, so here we have 3. And we just press F9 to recalculate, and you'll see that's generating integers. And so you can do the sort of thing we're doing with RAND between, or if we set that value to false, then we can get real values. Okay, so if you simply set rows to 1 and columns to 1, then RAND array gives you both what RAND between will do for integers, and it'll do the uniform distribution on any range that I just demonstrated above. But the real magic trick here is to say, well, look, what if we wanted 10 of these? Then all I do is change the number of rows to 10. And it straight away generates 10. And this is still using a single function call. Now you'll notice it provides a whole list from this one function call. Below that, if you go down below that, then the formula in the formula bar gets grayed out. So you can't actually edit that in that cell. There's nothing there, right? So this is what they call the spill from this one function up here. So to edit it, I would need to do that in cell B21. But again, if we wanted 100 values or 1,000, let's go for 1,000 values. Okay, and I'm still going from 0 to 20, and these are real values. And so we've got these 20 integer ranges, and 1,000 divided by 20 is 50. So we expect these to be uniformly distributed with an average of 50. And that's sort of what you see there. And we can recalculate a few times just to make sure that the histogram is sort of behaving. So they vary, the columns frequencies vary randomly around about 50. And if we got more and more, whoops, I did the wrong thing with the value there. Let's go for 10,000. Then the average value, the average frequency will be 500. And as you can see, because there's so many, the relative variation in frequencies is smaller. So you do get roughly a flat distribution with some random fluctuation around that. Okay, so there you have the three main random number generation functions in Excel. And please bear in mind randarray, which can duplicate the work of the other two and is so much more powerful. We'll use that in later videos when we're doing simulation of probability distributions.